Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. The federal government has implemented something called Cybersecure Canada, a cybersecurity certification program for small and medium-sized enterprises. Let's learn more about this from our guests. Keith Jansa is the Executive Director of the CIO Strategy Council, and Sai Huda is the founder and chairman of CyberCatch, based in Vancouver and San Diego. Welcome to you both.
Pleasure to
Thank
be
you.
here.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Keith, maybe start with you, and Sai, also get your perspective on this. What is the state of play with cybercrime and cybersecurity these days?
Well, I can definitely start to note that, given that we're just or through a pandemic or currently still sitting in one, the shift to online services to delivery through digital means has certainly increased the number of threat vectors, as well as an increase in the actual cyber breaches and or risks in the marketplace. So there's certainly been very much an increase in cybercrime, and certainly Sai has a number of numbers that he could potentially share with us in regards to that.
Well, we love numbers on this program. So, Sai, the baton's over to you. What's your perspective on this?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having us. So clearly there is an increase because the attackers are finding nice pockets of potential victims that just don't have the necessary knowledge or have their shields up. And they know that they are, can attack digitally. All these organizations are working more digitally, as Keith mentioned, and they're accessible easily from the web. So, for example, CyberCatch scanned about 20,000 websites of small and medium organizations in North America, US and Canada. And we found that 8 out of 10 have vulnerabilities in the websites that an attacker can exploit easily from thousands of miles away. And vulnerabilities really mean a bad code on either a website, web application, or a web server, or something that's not configured correctly. But because it's all accessible from the internet, the attackers can scan, like we scan, find these vulnerabilities, and attack and get in. So, that's like 8 out of 10. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing, is educating everybody.
And Sai, just to follow up on that, it's accelerating due to the shift in attitudes and consumer patterns during and after COVID. Is that right?
Yes, because of COVID, as Keith mentioned, organizations started to operate more digitally because that was the only way to continue to operate. And so people have built more websites, they've expanded their websites, they've offered e-commerce, doing more transactions electronically, and a whole host of organizations, businesses, but also not-for-profit. And so because of that, they're just more of a larger attack surface, if you will, for the attackers, more potential victims. And because people have rushed into it, not really thinking about security, which I'm sure we'll get into more details here, it's just more opportunity for the bad guys.
Keith, turning to you, is this cyber certification program necessary then?
Absolutely. It's specifically targeted towards small, medium enterprises, so those with less than 500 employees, and specifically targeting the small, medium enterprise, given how integrated small, medium enterprises are within the supply chain. So as much as it's targeted to those organizations, it certainly has implications for the larger organizations that receive products, services, or goods from these small, medium enterprises to their respective businesses. And ultimately, if there's any sort of broken link in that chain, when it comes to cybersecurity, it could potentially be a detriment to the small, medium enterprise, but also across that supply chain in relation to the data that potentially is being breached and exploited. So as much as it's targeted at the small, medium enterprise, it certainly has larger implications across organizations. The other thing with respect to the program being necessary, small, medium organizations, as you can imagine, especially micro businesses of 5 or less, don't necessarily have the resources nor the expertise and capacity to be able to address these highly technical areas to ensure that there are no doors open
Right.
for any particular breach.